Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another live episode of the Back to the Bible broadcast. Sunday night, 7:30 p.m., so you know that it's time for more Bible study. Glad you tuned in with us. Just Mike and Jordan tonight. Poor little Reese is homesick. So if you want to say a prayer for Reese so he can get to feeling better, which, I don't know. I don't have all that much sympathy for him since his wife is the one that got him sick.
I told him stop kissing his wife. He literally wrote me, "I can't."
Oh, man, that's good.
Yeah.
All right, so if you haven't seen the broadcast before, this is kind of how it goes.
Hi.
We're here studying the Bible, but we're also trying to have fun with it. We're not trying to have a dry, stuffy time. We are just two guys here in Montana, normally three guys here in Montana, your everyday kind of people, and we have an interest and a concern for the community and people that are around us that they know what the truth actually is from the Scriptures, as we have so much division, so much confusion, swirling around. What does the Bible actually say? What does this actually mean? And as we're going through our times together and investigating not only what the Bible teaches, but also contrasting what the Bible teaches to denominational preachers around here in town. We've gone through some of Dr. Nace's material, Foursquare's material, Mission Church, and a host of others. And the reason why we're doing that is because people on the outside that have nothing to do with corporate religion, as they would label it, they look at all of this and say, well, how can this be what God wants when you've got this group over here teaching this thing, this group over here teaching this thing, and this group over here teaching this thing, and they're all contradictory to one another, but then still trying to come around and play nice with each other so they all are really together and doing the same thing. People are able to see through that. They recognize that this is not what it's supposed to be. So what they're actually looking for are people that are willing to stand up, expose this kind of stuff, and say, yeah, we see it too, and we're bothered by it as well. That we recognize this is not how it's supposed to be, that God, in fact, wants us unified. Jesus, before he went to the cross, prayed in John chapter 17 that we would all be one, that we all would be unified under his teaching and his doctrine. And that's what we're trying to help people in this, not only in this community, but as far as this broadcast ends up going. I know we've got some people in the Philippines that watch, and North Carolina, and Nick Shipman from time to time, Indiana, Illinois, wherever he is
One of
over
the
there.
I's.
Yeah, one of the I states over there. And we're just wanting to help people with their Bible study. And we open up our chat, and we allow people to communicate with us, ask us questions, because we realize that's what's going to help to alleviate the confusion that is out there. So this is a live religious broadcast presented to you by the Church of Christ of Lake County here in Ronan, Montana, the newest, oldest church in town, the newest, and that we've been established around going on the 4-year mark. Yeah, coming up here 4 years with the Church of Christ of Lake County, but we're the oldest church because we're the ones really striving to be what you read about in the Scriptures. What they were doing in the first century, that's what we're doing. We're holding to that same form and that same fashion pattern of doctrine that they had, without any of our own personal beliefs, personal interpretations on how we think that these things are actually needing to go. I want to say welcome to our MCAT viewers. Channel 189 out of Missoula. Re-air Saturday nights, 9:30 p.m. We're grateful for that re-air. If you're watching the re-air, why not watch us live? Sunday nights, 7:30 p.m. Facebook, YouTube, and I'm not sure if X is working. They're kind of changing some of their standards over there at X, so we might end up getting booted from that. We do have new subscriber shout-outs. I want to say welcome to Sons Academy, and I really like this name, Eduardo Sanchez.
Eduardo Sanchez.
That's fun to say.
Yes,
Eduardo Sanchez. Thank you for subscribing. Hopefully you have your notifications on, and you know that we're live and you're watching. If you have any questions or comments that you want to make throughout our time together, we do have our chat open, and we will be able to see those and communicate with you. Our aim. So as we mentioned everything before, here are some scriptures to go along with what it is we're trying to help people do. Acts 17:11. We're wanting to have more people actually search the Scriptures and search the Scriptures daily, whether things were so. Check up on people. Do not just simply go along with a person because, they're charismatic, they just have a good energy and they look nice and, whatever. Make sure that what they're teaching is actually the truth. So we were talking about this during the tent. I'm amazed with how many people are actually flocking to Greg Locke in Tennessee or Kentucky, wherever he is, because I knew Greg Locke before he became Greg Locke. as he is today.
I don't even know the name.
Well, you've been living under a rock with the religious community. But the fact of, just how, as they would say it in the hills of eastern Tennessee, he's just rough as a cob. And that'll sink in a moment. And just the way that he just gets up there and just shouts and just slobbering as he's up there preaching and yelling and talking about supposedly they had 3 witches in their church and they threw them out and everything like that.
Did they weigh him with the duck first?
Praise God. I don't know. I don't know how they determined that they were witches, but supposedly they had 3 witches and they end up running them out of their church and everything like that. And it's just, we are supposedly living in a society where that kind of stuff's not. That's not to be tolerated. That's not civil. That's not politically correct and all that kind of stuff. But man, he's got people coming, and and what it is just that he's got that energy. He's got that quote unquote boldness that he's willing to say what's needed to be said. The problem is people are not really paying attention to what is being said. They're not doing what's in this verse here. They're not searching the scriptures, checking up behind him, and making sure that what he's saying is actually the truth. We're wanting to promote that kind of boldness that, okay, even though he is a preacher and now he's been anointed as an apostle recently, even though he claims to be an apostle, it's okay to question him, though he may turn around and bite your head off if you try to do that. These are apostles, and they're writing about this crowd of people saying, yeah, these are more noble, and here's why. We came in and taught them. Yes, they listened to us, but they did not just receive it because we said it. Search those scriptures. Do your investigation. And if you're not going to be willing to do that, you're not going to be able to come to the truth. So many people just want to be spoon-fed on stuff. They want to ask you a question, wanting an answer. Like we've had this discussion in the past about people would call me, ask a question, and they're just using me like I'm an encyclopedia.
Yeah.
And my response to them is, well, what have you studied on it? And usually the response is, well, I haven't really studied on it. Okay, you go and study it. If you still can't find the answer, then I'll come back and help you. That goes to show what's going on with our society. Well, I just want the quick answer. Let me Google it right quick and see what I can find. That's not how you learn. You've got to go through and search these things out, investigate. What are we hoping that people will find with this investigation that we are involved in doing together? Acts 26:18. To open their eyes, to turn them from the darkness to light and from the power of Satan unto God, that they may receive the forgiveness of sins. We're wanting people to be saved. You can't go out here on your own. It's not in man to direct his own steps. You cannot go out here on your own and plan for God to be pleasing with you and ignore what it is that he's actually taught. You must follow what is in those scriptures, in the word. Thus you're going to find the forgiveness of sins and inheritance among them which are sanctified by faith that is in me. So as we examine these people, we're trying to lead everyone to salvation. Everything that we've done with Dr. Nace is not to ridicule him or just run him down. We believe he's in error. We believe we can prove that he's in error. We want him to leave his error, leave darkness, leave the power of Satan, come to light, come to God, come to have the forgiveness of sins. That is the aim. That is the goal with what we're trying to do and what we're trying to promote. Anything you want to add on that before we go any further?
I was just going to say that I think he'd be a good soldier over here on this side of things to where he should be. I think that he'd be good to add to the repertoire of God.
For sure. I mean, just the fact, the stands that he is willing to make with Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, and even to a degree, some other elements of the religious community that's out there, but not chewing tobacco.
Yeah.
He will make statements and persuasions towards, well, okay, here's what is needing to be said. But he needs to go a little bit harder. He needs to go a little bit stronger. Mm-hmm. So as we're also involved in this work, all we're trying to do is point people to God's simple plan of salvation. To hear the gospel, believe that gospel, be willing to repent of a past life of sins, confess that Jesus Christ is the Son of God with the mouth, be baptized or immersed, buried in water for the remission of sins, be obedient until death. If you are a person who's familiar with the churches of Christ and how it is that we believe what the Bible teaches about water baptism, and you're struggling with that topic, we have some free study material if you're not a member of the Church of Christ that we will send to you. All you have to do is get in touch with us, and we'll deal with that as we get to our contact information at the end. All right. to our episode. Episode 109. Stop, decline to sign CI-128. Sounds like C-3PO's distant cousin. What are we even dealing with here? And it very well could be the case that many people saw the advertisement, saw the, what am I talking about? Event notification, saw the title, she's like, what is this thing? All right, that's understandable, because this is something that's actually been floating around here in our local community, and even people here in our local community are not even familiar what it is. We had all kinds of people, well, I shouldn't say all kinds of people, there's two different guys I saw downtown Polson, and they were out gathering signatures so as to have this item being put on the ballot for this upcoming election in November. So this is ballot issue number 14. And it's titled this way, and as we would come across these people, just walking through Polson, trying to, do whatever it is that we're doing, they were using the common euphemisms for this topic, and that, this is dealing with women's medical rights. And as soon as as soon as different ones heard that, we started recognizing, this is an abortion bill. Mm-hmm. But many people, as they were involved in their day-to-day routines and came across these people gathering signatures, were not paying attention, were ill-informed as to what this topic or what this ballot issue is actually dealing with, and a lot of people signed their name to these petitions, and now it's going to be on our ballot in November. Now, from what I'm hearing, there's actually a push to get these people sued because, allegedly, they went through some illegal processes in gathering some of these signatures. Hopefully that's true, and hopefully that will end up coming to pass and that this won't end up on the ballot. But with it being on the ballot, we wanted to talk about it a little bit, but also deal with a deeper issue behind this ballot initiative. So what exactly is this ballot initiative, CI-128? Well, from the website for MontanaFamilies.com, here is what they inform the community about this topic. I'm trying to figure out how to zoom in here. I'm getting to that age where I don't know how to work PDFs. How do I open a PDF? All right. So, summary from the Secretary of State's website. A constitutional initiative that affirms the right to make and carry out decisions about one's own pregnancy, including the right to abortion, in the Montana Constitution. This constitutional amendment prohibits the government from denying or burdening the right to abortion before fetal viability. Additionally, the amendment ensures that the government cannot deny or burden access to an abortion when it is necessary to protect the pregnant patient's life or health. This constitutional amendment prevents the government from punishing patients, healthcare providers, or anyone who assists someone in seeking reproductive care. So there's another one of those euphemisms that they were out there using trying to gather signatures. Or anyone who assists someone in seeking reproductive care, including abortion care. This summary is from the MTSOS website, so on and so forth. Now, here's the issue. And it's amazing that we're even having to deal with this issue. Why are we needing to have this being put into the Montana State Constitution? And this is really what's got a lot of people up in arms about it, is the fact that this is not a bill that's being passed, trying to be made into law here in the state of Montana. They're actually trying to get this into the state constitution. What that then does is, if anybody after this, let's say this passes, if this passes and it becomes an amendment inside of the state constitution, if we ended up getting just a full Republican representative, in the House and in the state legislature, everything like that, who are opposed to abortion, and they try to pass laws to regulate abortions here in the state of Montana, all of those would be struck down as being unconstitutional per the Montana State Constitution. Very sneaky, very diabolical that they would try to go this far into pressing this agenda. Well, we're not even going to try to make it a law. We're trying to get it into the Constitution, state Constitution, so that anybody that tries to do anything, we just strike it down no matter what happens. But as you and I were discussing earlier, Jordan, as we said, it's amazing that this is even a topic for debate. That we are even having this argument about, well, when is it actually okay to kill a baby? Mm-hmm. It should never be a good time for anybody to come along and decide, you know what, I think I want to kill my baby now. And especially with how far we know that some individuals on the Democratic left side are pushing for just how late you can do this. New York, Virginia, they were trying to push it up to the time of birth. 9 months. And even in New York City, they were pushing towards, well, if it's there on the table and the mother decides, well, I'm not wanting to take care of this, then the doctors could just step away. And you notice inside of this, there's also the wording about protecting those, let's see, prevents the government from punishing patients, healthcare providers, or anyone who assists someone in seeking reproductive care. So this is what this issue is about. And so here are some other issues that they're putting along with this that are going to be problematic. Like we mentioned, putting it in the Constitution, if it passes, then it enshrines abortion until birth as a quote-unquote right in the state of Montana. It expands the scope. There's no guardrails at all for abortion, including partial birth abortion. It removes parental involvement with all of these protections. Parents will not be a part of their minor child's decision to have an abortion. It removes pro-life laws. Bills to protect life will be struck down as unconstitutional. Now, I wasn't able to do any further research on these next 2 points. They're still unclear to me as to how this is going to increase these things. So anybody in the chat that has some thoughts on it to help me out here would be appreciated. They are making the claim that it will increase sex trafficking, will make Montana a safe haven for violent offenders and sex traffickers. It will hide more predators. It will allow Planned Parenthood to hide cases of statutory rape. So that's what the issue is. A lot of people were not aware that this is what they were signing up for, and they signed up for it, and now it's going to be on the ballot, unless we can get it struck down. So that's problem number one. So as we started out about, you need to search the scriptures. Folks, you need to wake up and get more involved in what's going on outside of your small bubble. I realize that we have a lot on our plates right now. With inflation, interest rates, property taxes went up here again in Montana, and there's going to be another hit because of all the stupid stuff going on with the jail.
Don't say that.
Why? Oh, sorry. Sorry, kids. Sorry, Ethan, Jackson. Not supposed to say that word. Some dumb rules that are decisions that are being made about the local jail here, and we're going to be stuck with the price tag on that. There's a lot of things that have our attention. But we cannot then just neglect these other issues and leave them up to our legislatures. They have a responsibility to represent us. But if you are not informing them and speaking to them and are involved on these issues, well, then how is your representative supposed to know where you actually stand? They're not going to know. So then they're going to act upon their own moral compass, if you will. And that creates a problem within itself. So problem number one, that this was even allowed to get on the ballot because people are signing it, not even realizing what they're signing. Need to stop doing that. You need to ask more questions. You need to be more involved, more inquisitive as to what's actually happening here. Now, it's interesting that back in November of 2022, we did another abortion episode. So here we are, almost 2 years apart. Yeah, this coming November will be 2 years from that episode 48, to now episode 109, and we're still having to deal with this topic and this issue of abortion in Montana. Now, back then, with episode 48, it had to do with LR 131, which was a bill that was trying to be passed that would ensure medical care requirements for born alive infants. It's called the Medical Care Requirements for Born Alive Infants Measure of 2022. What this stated was, if you voted yes on this, that the state it would state that infants born alive at any stage of development are legal persons. Why would they be wording it like that? Because you had some people trying to push like what we have now on the ballot, that at any point, if you wanted to decide, well, okay, I'm going to leave this child, abort this child, LR131 would put restrictions on that. That a child, that the infants born alive at any stage of development are legal persons. You cannot look at that child there on the table and say, oh, that's just a lump of cells. Let's just leave it alone. It would also require medical care to be provided to infants born alive after an induced labor, cesarean section, attempted abortion, and that's a big one, because if you go in for an abortion and they botch it and the child ends up being born, okay, you're stuck with it now. You might have been trying to kill it before, but it's out now, and thus it's alive, which that shouldn't even be a part of it. It's alive the whole entire time. Yep. Or another method, and establishes a $50,000 fine and or 20 years in prison as the maximum penalty for violating the law. That's what we were voting for back in 2022. And of course, I shouldn't say of course, but it didn't pass. So we couldn't even get that passed. And now here we are again, and we're just repeating the cycle. Now it's the other side trying to get their turn. But they're taking it a step further. They're trying to bring this in to the actual Constitution. Now, some might be wondering about this. Well, wait, are you guys against an abortion ban? No, we're not against an abortion ban. I'm all for, like back in 2022, LR131, I voted yes on that because it's ridiculous that we even have to be talking about this. But if this is what we've got to do, then okay, I'm going to put my support for that. Well, if you're not against an abortion ban, then what's all this really about? The problem is the inconsistency of what issues you want to get mad over. And as you can tell, I was having difficulty with the wording here, and that's why it's all a jumbled mess. And in particular, yes, there are people in the community that are upset over this, but I'm more interested in why it is that politicians want to take this issue as being the issue that they're just going to get all fired up about. And then you're going to completely ignore other issues that come into play with this very topic. Now, here's what we're talking about. Back in 2022, when we were handling all of the casino stuff, we got no religious help with what we were doing. We were out with our table, out with signs. We were trying to gather up signatures for a petition to, tell the city, listen, you don't need to get into business with this casino. You're going to end up losing. And what's the saying about casinos and who wins?
House always wins.
The house always wins.
The devil.
Yeah, you do not need to do this. Well, got no religious help. No other preachers jumped in on it. We were the only religious group there at the city council meeting in Polson to voice our opposition to what was going on.
And that was pointed out by people in the Republican group that were all the preachers. Yes.
Right, yeah. Okay. That's how I got my start with them, was they were trying to figure out where are all the other preachers. We got no legislative help on this topic. No legislators came to the aid and to the side of, listen, city, you don't need to get involved in this. Everyone that was there, in their complaints, they wanted to talk about traffic problems. Now, I understand those are real problems. There's only one bridge that goes out of Polson into the area where that casino is going to be. And not too long ago, like a couple months ago, we actually had a really bad wreck there on the bridge, and the bridge was shut down for like 3 hours. Firefighters, EMS, they couldn't get out to the wreck. Nobody could get off the bridge. I mean, it was just a big mess. And then you're wanting to, increase the traffic flow going out there. I get all of that, but that's not the real issue. The real issue is the moral problem, the deeper problems that you're going to end up having by bringing in this brand new casino. Crime's going to go up. Domestic abuse is going to go up. Alcohol abuse, drug abuse, all these different things are going to go up. Prostitution is going to go up. Everything increases the bigger you get with casinos. We got no help on the front of, look, this is just a bad call. And the reason why, well, let me ask you, what's the reason why? What's one of the, so we talked about it before, just so I can give you some hints so you don't get too lost.
Because of me saying that it's not a moral issue.
Okay.
We can't make this a moral issue.
All right. And that was the problem.
I already had it written
Okay,
down.
good. Okay, good job.
I know what I'm doing.
All right. Just making sure.
I'm fumbling through this.
So when we're thinking about this and we're looking at all these different things, all these different problems that are going on, you've got casinos. In our area, dispensaries have become...
Nick Mason.
Oh, that is loud. All right. Nick Mason, give us just a minute. Call back in just a minute. Let us finish this point. We've got casinos. We've got dispensaries. That's marijuana. I almost said CBD, but CBD is not the same thing as people smoking marijuana. We've got breweries here in town. Alcoholism is a huge problem within the boundaries of the reservation that we live in.
Oh, yeah.
You've got fornication. That's how they say it in the hills. That's how the hillbillies say it.
Fornication.
Pornography, all these different things. Now, I will say on the pornography front, the state of Montana has been one of those states that has put tighter regulations on pornographic adult websites, making them have to, really buckle down on making sure you're of proper age, given identification, all these type of things. And because of that, a lot of the pornographic websites have shut down their activity here in the state of Montana because of it. Okay, that's a win. That's something I can grant to them, that this was a good move and that it's, shutting these things down. However, you have other problems. You have other means of being able to get around those websites and still being able to locate it. So what are you actually needing to do? You need to take this fight further and not just shutting down the websites. You need to shut down the actual production companies. These people that are putting these studios together and doing all this stuff, you have got to shut them down at the root. Now, we got all these issues. Legislatures are not taking any action on the casino. They're not wanting to take any action on the dispensary, which actually we need to circle back to the dispensary. They're not wanting to take any action on the breweries. And the reason being is because, as I was teeing Jordan up there, we have had people say to us, well, you cannot legislate morality. That was so it wasn't the first meeting, it was the second meeting, public hearing over the casino issue. Ed Meese, the city manager there in Polson, that's the very first thing that he ended up stating before the public comment was kicked into gear. Was, we're hearing a lot of arguments about morality, so on and so forth. I was the only one making the morality argument.
Yep.
Everybody else is talking about traffic and these issues and this road and that road and I-35 and, all these different kind of things. I was the only one making a morality issue, and he took the time to focus in on me, and it's just like, well, we cannot argue this from the state of morality. Oh, that was a big mistake. Shouldn't have done that. But this is what we're getting. And even legislators that are getting upset and fired up, and I know one of our state representatives who will be going to Helena to work on the legislature. I know her personally, and in one of the meetings that we've had recently, she was giving updates on what her office was doing, and she got to talking about this abortion issue, and you can see in her face, she was getting red. But the whole time that I'm sitting there listening to her, I'm also wondering, well, how are you supposed to fight this? How are you supposed to legislate this? Because this is a moral issue. I didn't think that we could legislate morality. Ed Meese is telling us this, and he's a member over at, what's that Baptist church where the school is? Lake City.
Yep. He's
a member of Lake City Baptist Church.
Man.
And he's saying, oh, no, morality, we got to keep that out of here. Everything else that's going on in our community, well, it's difficult to legislate morality. Well, how are we supposed to legislate this then? And that's the problem that I have. That you're wanting to choose this as, this is the thing, this is the moral thing that we've got to regulate. But all these other things, we can't touch that. So I believe Reese and his wife went and saw Tanner Smith, who was gubernatorial candidate, or trying to be. And he was here in Polson giving a speech and letting everybody shake his hand, and he was kissing babies and all that kind of stuff. And I believe Reese's wife asked him, I thought it was, okay, so he was sitting, Reese told us about the casino. She got to asking him about the casino and what, if he would be willing to do anything to stand against that, and, what would he be able to do? And his response was, well, it's hard to legislate moral issues. I find that highly hypocritical, because while he's saying that to Reese and to his wife about casinos, did you ever meet him, get to hear him?
No.
Okay. One of his major planks in his platform that he was running on and that he would come and talk to us about was his concern and how he was going to start fighting these marijuana dispensaries.
Wow.
Well, hold on a minute, Mr. Smith. Now, I like Tanner Smith. I voted for him in this primary election. I wanted him to be our candidate for governor. But listen, man, you don't get to pick and choose what you decide are moral issues that you can take on. If you're going to take on this issue and it being a moral issue and causing problems in our society, you need to take on this, and you need to take on this. And we're not the only ones arguing this way. I remember Reese, as we were going out and trying to get signatures for the petition, he went to the library here in Ronan, and in going into the library at Ronan, he let them know, this is what we're doing, we're trying to gather petitions so as to stop it. Mm-hmm. Do you remember what the guy at the library said?
Librarian. Yeah, it was about that same, can't quite picture, but it was that same thing. What are you going to do? Go stop the bars?
Okay, that was his question to us. Well, what are you going to do? Are you going to do anything about the bars? See what he's trying to do? He's trying to catch us in some inconsistency.
Yep.
Is this just your pet project? Is this just that one thing that, we've got to stand against this when you have this other evil going on over here? Mm-hmm. We're going to take them all on.
Pretty sure Reese did say that to him, and then he got all cussing around.
Right.
Like, yeah, right.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So right there, they're trying to find some kind of flaw so that they don't have to get involved in it. But no, we're trying to be consistent. We're trying to be consistent across the board. Alcohol is just as much a problem as the casino is. Marijuana is just as much problem as pornography is. And all of these are just as much big problems as abortion is. We're not picking any favorites here to where this is just so deplorable, it's just so despicable, and we can't touch anything else because, and here's the reason why we don't touch anything else. Well, here I have people that are involved in it, or I'm involved in it. Very likely could be that, the representative that I know, very likely she's a drinker. Mm-hmm. Could be the case. She likes to go to the casino every once in a while. I'm not sure, but I'm saying it could be. And that's how people make their decisions. Well, I like this thing, so therefore I'm not going to make a stink about it. I don't see it as an issue. Oh, it's an issue, all right. Let's see here. Okay, all right. So Nick sent me a text. I made my point. You got anything you want to make a point before Nick Mason calls in?
Mm-hmm. I don't think so. I'm just
going once, going twice.
I'm just all in. I'm just listening to it all. It's all bad.
It is all bad.
It's all bad.
And we need people.
It's a long road.
Nick Mason.
There we go. All right. Okay, give me a minute here. All right. Nick Mason, can you hear me?
I can. How are you folks tonight?
All right, doing well. We can hear
Good.
you.
Good deal. Hey, if you guys don't mind, I think just to make a statement, it is absolutely a massive morality issue. And I think at the end of the day, what we're talking about here is what it leads to. And it leads to addiction. Addiction. And people that don't know about addiction, they just go along with the common flow of things. But it's all the same. I think that the endorphins that are released through different means of things in this world that are addictive, and people get different highs, if I might use that word, off of addictions. And it doesn't matter if it's pornography, if it's drugs, or if it's gambling.
Yep.
And I said all that to say this. I didn't grow up in a church family. I didn't grow up in a religious family. And I've come to a knowledge of God's truth and tried to lead my family that direction. And over the years, I've spoke to my dad and my mom, My dad ended up obeying the gospel about 7 years ago. But my mom, she never did. And she had a gambling problem. She had a horrible gambling addiction. And a few years ago, what she ended up doing was she gambled their entire life savings, and she quit making the mortgage payment. And then when she quit making the mortgage payment, they were going to foreclose on the house. This was unbeknownst to my dad or to me or anybody else. She kept it all a secret right up until the time that the home was to be sold on the courthouse steps the following Monday. And an investor showed up on the Monday prior, and he was looking to see what he was going to be trying to bid on or purchase. Basically, does the home have any windows, a roof? It was a nice home. And he didn't come up to the door or anything, but my mom, she saw him out there, and she went out and she addressed him. Now, I don't know what dialogue they had, but I know this. My mom was very upset because the wolves were at the door now. You see, she'd lost their home. And she walked back into the house, and she picked up my dad's 357 Magnum. She went back out into the front yard, and she addressed this man, and he was leaving. He got in his car. She scared him to death. And then she took the handgun, and she committed suicide right there in the front yard of my dad's house. So anybody that wants to tell me that this is not a moralistic issue, gambling will ruin lives. Alcohol ruins lives. Drugs ruin lives. Any type of these addictions, they take over people. I don't call in here tonight, Micah. I'm not calling to be Debbie Downer. I'm calling to be a live example of a Christian that has watched this ruin people's lives. From a moralistic perspective, it's wrong, and it takes over. I won't take you guys' night up, but I would love to have an opportunity to talk with any of those people on the legislation board and let them know exactly what I think. You see, when Daniel's friends would not bow down to that image, because God has already set the laws. And when we go against what moralistic law, you can't legislate moralistic values. God has already done that.
Yeah.
And when anything that is opposed to what God says it's already been judged. So thank you for letting me take a few minutes or just a moment. But any of your callers or your listeners or anybody that might hear this broadcast worldwide that you guys affect, I want you guys to know I appreciate what you do for the kingdom. But there are people that are hurting, and there are people that are so negatively impacted by the things of this world, and it takes over. It really does. And depression sets in, and clinical depression is a real thing, but it's all brought about by sin, I believe. That's a different discussion. But thanks for letting me share my story. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Brother Mason. Yeah, that's definitely powerful illustration to go along
Amen.
with our point. So yeah, thank you for sharing that.
You guys stay blessed.
All right, you have a great night. Thank you. And I'm sure if I had reached out to some folks at the recovery hall,
Oh, yeah.
and to let them know what we were talking about, and if they wanted to share some of their stories, you and I could have just sat back for the hour and let them tell their stories. And here's
Handed each other tissues.
right, yeah, no joke.
Not kidding.
Now, here's the thing about it. I understand. So when it comes to like this argument about you cannot legislate morality, I understand where to go. There it is. I understand where the argument is going. In that, okay, you can make all the laws that you want to, but that doesn't mean that you're actually going to change people's thinking about it just because you've written a law. You can restrain their activity, but you've not actually changed how they feel about it. If we're really wanting to deal with these issues, it's having to wake people up to this reality of look at what's happening to people's lives as they allow this sin, and let's just call it for what it is. And Brother Mason did a good job of that. Let's just call it for what it is. These are sins. These are vices. These are lusts. And when you turn yourself over to sin, when you become the servant of sin, it's your master. It is controlling you. and the wages of sin is death. Doesn't always have to be physical death, but there are going to be physical consequences that come along with using these kinds of substances. And just the fact that we have our representatives wanting to try to leave morality out of these topics, or out of these issues and out of these decisions, but then all of a sudden, when it comes to abortion, man, then the morality wants to start coming out. Don't give me that. Y'all, you're... On one hand, I can appreciate the zeal for what you're doing, but you're not fixing the problem. All that is a Band-Aid. Let's get rid of this abortion issue. If you're really wanting to get rid of the abortion issue, start getting rid of some of these other things. Pornography, where young children are being introduced to adult material way before they should ever receive it. Oh, man, I remember back in the day when I was doing all kinds of research on this topic, I think the average age, especially for boys, being introduced to adult material was like 11, 10, but I'm sure it's much earlier now.
It's 8 now.
Yeah, so, I mean, it continues to get younger. And then the fact that you have sex education going on in the public school system, there again, we can't regulate, legislate moral issues. What are you doing? What's the government doing teaching sex ed then? Mm-hmm. See, all of this is backwards and doesn't make any sense, and people need to wake up to this and realize here's what's going on. If you really want to deal with the issue of these abortion problems, in which everybody wants to go the rape route, what about the young lady that's raped, blah, 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 this, that, and the other. That, in the research that I did leading up to this, I went to the CDC's website, and then a few other websites that were in connection with them that had statistical information about abortions and what's going on in the country, this, that, and the other. Guess how many times the CDC mentions abortion because of rape or incest?
It's not mentioned.
0. But yet that's the main argument that's being thrown out by the left. What about these people that are raped, blah, blah, this, that, and the other? The CDC doesn't even bring that up. The average group that is getting abortions are those that are in their 20s. So you're college age. Well, what's everybody doing at college?
Partying.
They're out partying and they're drinking. And they're having illicit adult activities. They're fornicating out there in college. Well, what are we supposed to do about this? Start cutting down on that kind of activity. Where are the adults? Where are the college supervisors that are going to be stepping in? And most of so even with their kids that are in their 20s, if you're not 21, you're not supposed to be having alcohol. But how many of these parties have alcohol at them?
All of them.
All of them. And if we want, we got time. Let's go ahead and listen to Jordan Peterson again. We played this clip in the past, but here's Jordan Peterson, and remember, we'll refresh your memory as to what he had to say about the alcohol issue when it comes to kids that are out here involved in illicit sexual activities.
Let's party. And, you can see why. It's like what the rules for not engaging in promiscuous sexual intercourse seemed to have vanished. So we had a couple of decades of experimentation. It's like, well, how'd that go? Little hard on the family, I would say. That's not so good for kids. AIDS, that wasn't a plus. Could have killed us all. And it mutated, particularly to take advantage of promiscuous sex, because viruses are very tricky things. So it turns out that sex is a little bit more complicated than we thought. Well, it actually turns out that it's a lot more complicated than we think. Okay, and now it's 50, 60 years later, and we're trying to sort this out. It's like, well, when is it okay to have sex? Exactly. And when is it not okay to have sex? And what does it mean that it's okay? And what does consent mean? And the answer to that is, well, we never used to have to think these things through, because the rule was don't have sex until you get married. That was the rule. Now that isn't the rule. Okay, so what's the rule? Well, we're not having a conversation about the rule. We're waiting till someone does something that seems like it might be untoward and then mobbing them and trying to extract the rule out that way. And it's not a very effective way of doing it. you know, you want to decrease campus rape? That's easy. Get rid of alcohol. No one has that conversation. It's like I did my PhD work on alcohol. 50% of the people who are murdered are drunk, and 50% of the people who kill them are drunk. And almost all the date rape situations are consequences of excess intoxication. But yet there's a party culture on campuses, and anything goes. And you also have this strange thing, especially on the radical left, which is unbelievably paradoxical, where absolutely every form of sexual expression imaginable is 100% permissible because sex is fine, but it's so dangerous that while you're dancing with someone at a Princeton mixer, you have to ask them 2 or 3 times if it's okay for you to continue. And that's actually the case, by the way. I'm not making that up. It's like, well, both of those things can't be true. Now, what's happening, I think, on the Me Too end of things and the...
All right, so we'll stop him there before he gets into Me Too, because we got the main piece, what we're needing. He brings up, he's making the same statement that we're bringing up. Why is nobody having these conversations? Why are you wanting to focus in on, well, we got to stop the abortions? Why aren't you stopping the party culture that ends up bringing these children into the world when these young kids are not ready?
Because you're involved.
Yeah, because these young kids are not ready to bring children in. Why aren't you stopping that? Well, because they're my kids, and I don't want to tell them no. Yep. Why aren't you stopping the alcohol? Because as Dr. Peterson, states, that is one of the main culprits with this party culture and when it comes to date rape. Well, guess what? You get rid of alcohol, you get rid of people that are intoxicated, that make bad decisions, or get so blackout drunk they don't even remember making the decisions. We did an episode on that with a local situation here where that happened. Guess what? We're not looking at responsive care. We're looking at preventative care. Well, everybody's trying to figure out, well, what are we going to do when this happens? How about we figure out something to stop these things from happening?
Prudent.
Exactly. It's the whole drug situation. Well, we need to build drug rehabilitation, this, that, and the other. That's all responsive to the drugs already being here. You really want to fix the problem, stop the drugs from coming in. Mm-hmm. And then you don't even have to worry about building a rehabilitation center. And everything else that comes out of this. So if we're able to hone these things in, as Dr. Peterson said, what used to be the rule? Well, you're not involved in sexual activity until you're married. Mm-hmm. And then we've changed the rule. Mm-hmm. Well, what is the rule? Well, there is no rule now. It's anything goes. Well, look at the problems that we have. Part of the reason why we're being taxed out the nose is because the government has stepped in. We have all these children that need to be taken care of. So we'll tax you so as to take care of those children. I'm not wanting to take care of somebody else's children. If you're not in a position to take care of your own children, don't have children. And now we've got a system that is it's breeding within itself that, well, a woman realizes, well, if I have more children and I'm not married, then that's more help that I can get, they say, from the government. But we realize it's not coming from the government. It's coming out of my pocket, Jordan's pocket, and he's got 3 kids of his own. All of this is corrupt to the core, to where it's, oh, well, we got to take care of these poor people, but what about Jordan and his kids? Nobody's coming along to help them. Why are we needing to come along and help these people for making their bad decisions? Oh, well, it's just, it's the humanitarian thing to do. All of this is backwards. And this is the issue that I take when it comes to our legislature wanting to jump on this moral issue so as to win some political points. No, if you're really wanting to win some points with me, let's get down to the real issues here. Take out the breweries, cut back on the alcohol here in the county, which on a reservation is not supposed to be alcohol anyways. So explain how that works, and then dispensaries, marijuana on top of that. These things aren't even supposed to be here. So if you take them away, what will that then mean? And the argument is, well, they're going to do it anyway, so we might as well just tax, put it in legislation so we can tax it. Is it true they're going to, they are still going to try to do this? Yes, they are still going to try to do this. but they won't be able to do it here. They'll have to go somewhere else to get their alcohol, to go somewhere else to get their weed, whatever they're trying to get, and they're not doing it here. And if they want to be somebody else's problem, let them be somebody else's problem. We have got to start hammering on this stuff, and it's not just the legislature as all of this started. It's the local citizens. All of these people that would claim to be Christians, and then you're not even paying attention to what you're signing your name for and what's going on a ballot. And then when it comes time in November to actually cast the vote, are you going to be any more informed then than you were when you put your name on the petition to then put it on the ballot? And so many people are going to be not complacent's not the word. And accessory is not the word I'm looking for either, but accessory will do. They're going to end up being accessories to the destruction of so many lives throughout our county, throughout our state, simply because, well, I just don't want to get in it. Don't want to get involved in it. It's a moral issue. Just, vote your conscience, whatever. Like all these different cliches and verbiage and adages that people throw out there. Friends, that is not going to get us by. And it's definitely not going to get us by if we're not going to be consistent on these issues. You're going to pick on abortion, then you need to get on alcohol consumption. If you're going to get on alcohol consumption, you need to get on weed. And that's part of the reason why people don't get on it, because they realize, well, if I jump on this, it means I have to get on this and this and this and this, and the dominoes fall. And then, well, where does it end? It ends when the sin ends. Once we start putting regulations into place, and then we also end up putting punishments into place that are fitting to the crimes that are being committed. So what you got, Jordan? I need a break.
Well, I agree with everything that you're saying. It goes back to what we've said, I think, in our beginning episodes, and I can't remember the exact quote, so I was kind of like working through my own way of saying it, but the bad times lead to good, let's go. Bad times lead to strong men lead to good times lead to weak men, blah, blah, blah. That's botched, but that's where we are in that bad times right now, and that's making people stronger. But that's what it comes back to, is it comes back to the Nick Masons that have been affected, because until you see it, then you can feel it. You could touch it, you could taste it, and then you act on it. Like this last week, Hulk Hogan's finally coming out because they took a shot at my brother, my hero, They took a shot at him. It's like, well, where were you before? And he said that. He's like, well, yeah, I was just sitting back and letting our country go to pot, literally. But now I'm stepping out. Well, we should have been stepping out way before, and I said that last week, is Grandpa should have been standing up and not letting this thing happen. But we get to that thing to where it's like, well, it is my kid, it is my brother, it is my aunt, it's my whoever. And it's like, well, I can't do it, or I am doing it. To where it's like, well, I can't, I can't say no to them, or then I have to let go of it. And it goes back to what Nick Mason said, it's addiction. So you're addicted to this thing, or you don't want to let go of it, and so then it becomes this problem. But you hit it just before you stop. It's the consequences. So we go back to one of my favorite verses, thinking about the abortion, is Exodus 21:22. If men strive and hurt a woman with child, so that her fruit depart from her, and yet no mischief follow, he shall be surely punished according as the woman's husband will lay upon him, and he shall pay as the judges determine. And if any mischief follow, then thou shalt give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burning for burning, wound for wound, stripe for stripe. So this is what it needs to go back to, is what God says. Mm-hmm. Okay, baby dies, which, wait a second, I thought it was just a blob of cells. No, God says whatever is in the tummy is alive. It is a life. Life for life. That's what needs to happen. So with all of it, not just the abortion thing, but we need to all stand up, as we were talking about last week. It's up to all of us, all of the brethren, to stand up and do something and to talk about it. And when it's not just voting time, when you want the vote, so this person you're talking about, that's why you're getting all red-faced. It's because there's votes.
It's election year.
It's right. That's right. We're sitting here. We got no, whatever you say, skin in the game. We got no dog in the fight, except for we love people. right? It finally came to this point that they were taxing tea. It's like, that's all, 2% tax or whatever. And then, all right, that's it. We're gonna die for this country. We're gonna make this a country. We're gonna die for it. And now here we are, complacent. We're in the weak part. And now it's time for the strong people to come back. You can't stop history, but we can prevent it for as long as we can. But it takes us. It takes us, brethren. It should be the brethren that are standing up and doing this. We are God's people, and we should be standing up for morality. We should be standing up for my kids, your kids, your grandkids. We should be standing up now because they're going to be looking back at us and go, why didn't Grandpa do something? So it goes back to what you're saying. The consequences need to be more, badder, worser. And we need to get to that point. We need to be prudent now, and we need to be stopping it now.
And just to give you a taste as to, well, how bad are we talking about consequences getting? Well, let's just go to God's standard. Deuteronomy 22:22. So as we're saying about the abortion problem, okay, you want to fix the abortion problem? Fix the fornication problem. Take care of alcohol, take care of, remove this party, this party crowd, or not party crowd, this
Culture.
Party culture, thank you, mentality that we have throughout our society. Get your young people back in line because they're not controlling themselves. Everybody knows that about teenagers. The whole joke, hormones are raging and blah, 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 this, that, and the other. Okay, they are not regulating themselves.
So then let them go out
So,
and do it.
then you just let them out loose on their own. That's a wise decision.
Yeah.
Cut down on all of that. And if they still decide to disregard and disobey Deuteronomy 22:22, if a man be found lying with a woman married to a husband, so this is adultery, then they shall both of them die. Both of them, the man that lay with the woman and the woman, shalt thou put away evil from Israel. But everybody looks at this today as, well, they're just wanting to be happy, so on and so forth. God calls that evil. And you put evil away. But now we live in a society, you want to get a divorce for any reason? Yeah, just go down to the courthouse. We've got billboards advertising easy divorce. $100 and you can be divorced. Wow. That's where our society is. But how does, society see that? Oh, yeah, it just happens. That's part of life, blah, blah, this, that, and the other. You're wanting to be under God's regulations? You are involved in this and you're caught? Both of you dead. All right, don't do it. It's not worth it. Is it really worth losing your life? If a damsel that is a virgin be betrothed unto a husband, so she's engaged, and a man find her in the city and lie with her, then ye shall bring them both out unto the gate of that city, and ye shall stone them with stones that they die. The damsel, because she cried not, being in the city, and the man, because he hath humbled his neighbor's wife, so thou shalt put away evil from among you. So here is a situation where the young lady is complacent. She's a part of it. What happens? Both of them, again, dead. So this almost feels like the clip from Parks and Rec. You overcook chicken, straight to jail. You undercook fish, straight to jail, undercook, overcook. But if a man find a betrothed, but even God recognizes, okay, this legislation needs to be fair. So if it's in a city and she doesn't cry out for help or anything like that, okay, she's complacent, she's a part of it, they're both dead. Well, what about a damsel that's in the field? The man force her and lie with her, then the man only that lay with her shall die. But unto the damsel thou shalt do nothing. There is in the damsel no sin worthy of death, for as when a man riseth against his neighbor and slayeth him, even so is this matter. For he found her in the field, and the betrothed damsel cried, and there was none to save her. So here's an innocent party, and you have somebody that comes along, and this is a picture of, rape, and I'm pretty sure YouTube doesn't like that word, but this is a Bible program, so maybe they'll give us some leniency.
But what about abortion?
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
So here's a situation where a man forces himself on a woman. What happens to that man? You don't send him to jail for the rest of his life. You end him. And the same should go for anybody that would do such a thing to a child. Montana, every state, we shouldn't even have to make this a law. But every state needs to follow the lead of Florida, and is it Tennessee? I think that's also
I can't remember.
Florida. I know. So Florida and for sure Idaho.
Yeah.
Idaho recently passed it too. You are a pedophile that preys on innocent children, and you're caught, you're gone. That is it.
Man.
Now some would look, well, that just seems cruel and blah blah. It's cruel that an adult would do that to a child.
Mm-hmm.
And then what that ends up doing to the child, that child is going to be damaged for the rest of their life. The majority of people that I deal with in the recovery hall, they are all also victims of sexual abuse. And like some of them, so I'm 36, majority of them are younger than I am, and they are still big time damaged by what happened to them as children.
Yep.
So to then act like, oh no, we need to be kind to this person, blah, blah, This is harmful and wicked and evil to the core. There's no leniency there. There's no, well, let's sit back and try to understand, blah, none of that. Here's the kind of consequences that we're talking about. They need to be gone. And more individuals, if you're going to study your Bible correctly, this is the kind of stuff you need to be taking in. If a man find a damsel that is a virgin, which is not betrothed, and lay hold on her and lie with her, and they be found, the man that lay with her shall give unto the damsel's father 50 shekels of silver. So now we move from a young lady that's engaged, betrothed. Now it's just, here's a young lady. Well, what happens here? If the man that lay with her shall give unto the damsel's father 50 shekels of silver, and she shall be his wife. So you're getting hitched. Because more than likely you're going to end up producing a child from this, and that child needs a home. Because he hath humbled her, he may not put her away all his days. You are stuck. Well, then I guess I better make good decisions as to who I'm getting stuck with. But you see, nobody's thinking about this kind of stuff. Nobody's thinking about consequences because there are no consequences. As Dr. Peterson said, we removed all the rules, and now it's just anything goes. And now everybody's, sitting back, scratching their heads like, what are we supposed to do? How do we get here? You're not following what God says. Here are the regulations. Regulations have consequences. If you're going to break those, then that's just the way it goes. And even in the New Testament, this is still the same principle. Now concerning, 1 Corinthians 7, 1 and 2, now concerning the things whereof you wrote unto me, it is good for a man not to touch a woman. That's in the context. This is all talking about marriage and fornication, so that's the kind of touching that we're talking about here. Nevertheless, to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife, and let every woman have her own husband. Okay, you've got two young people, and they're burning in their flesh for one another. Well, what do we do with that? Get them hitched. You want to head down this path? Get married. But realize, once you get joined together, this is a covenant, you're not breaking this. There's two ways out of this. Death, and one of you's unfaithful. And if you're the unfaithful party, then you're stuck. You're not marrying anybody else. Here's the New Testament principle on all of this. You want to cut down on the abortion? You want to cut down on all these unplanned pregnancies and so on and so forth? Start pressing marriage. And pressing it as God pressed it. This is where this is acceptable. This is where this is, in fact, permitted. And this is where you can find happiness and stability, comfort from all these things. The issue that we're having now, Ecclesiastes 8:11 through 13, because sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily. Therefore, the heart of the sons of men is fully set in them to do evil. We see this on the news all the time. Why do we have all these young people taking over the streets? Having their street takeovers, they're committing crime and all this kind of stuff. And then they're let right back out. They get arrested and then they're let right back out. It's this very principle. Well, you're not doing anything about it, so you let me loose, I'm going to do it all over again. And then it escalates. It goes from petty crime to, pushing and shoving, and then we're throwing punches, and the next thing you know, somebody's getting shot. Mm-hmm. Why did that happen? Because you did not execute judgment speedily. Though a sinner do evil 100 times, and his days be prolonged, yet surely I know that it shall be well with him that fear God, which fear before him. But it shall not be well with the wicked, neither shall he prolong his days, which are a shadow, because he feareth not before God. Why is it that his days will not be as many? They won't prolong. They're going to be like a shadow, because that's the rule of government. Romans 13, they do not bear the sword in vain. Last time I checked, a sword is a weapon that you use to take a man's life. Mm-hmm. That is government's role. You are there to protect us from the evil. And if you're not going to do it, within our country, the citizenry has the right to stand up and bring about that protection. Friends, if you're going to get bent out of shape over this abortion thing, or like we were discussing last week, these two things are connected. People getting all upset with that lady. When I felt like I was filled with the Holy Spirit was when I kissed another woman. You're wanting to get upset about that, and you're wanting to get upset about abortion. You also have to get upset about these other things. You cannot pick and choose what the things are that you're going to jump on and make your moral issue to set out on a crusade. You must be consistent. That's what people are looking for. If you're not going to say anything about the breweries, don't say anything about the casinos. Hey, that dude is absolutely right. Mm-hmm. No issue with me. Hey, man, I get it. And that's why we speak out against the breweries. That's why when different holidays come around the year, we try to reach out to our representatives and say to them, do not allow permits for these people to have open containers out on the streets. We don't want that. You're breaking your own laws. You're showing to people, oh, yeah, this law can be set aside if you pay the right amount of money for a permit. How ridiculous. You've got to look at these issues, see them for what they are, and be willing to take the stands. Is it going to make you popular? Nuh-uh. I'm sure this stuff right here, if there's any of my Republican friends, this isn't making me very popular with them. Because I'm sure there's a lot of them there in their 4th, 5th marriages. But the problem is that they've not had this kind of instruction before. And in realizing, oh, this is how God actually feels about what I'm doing right now. And so I need to make a change. And it's those kind of changes that are going to set the stage, and they're going to, break the chain of this, these cycles that people are finding themselves in. Everybody realizes the numbers are out there. Children that come from homes that have divorce in it, they end up being divorced. They just end up repeating what goes on because that gets established as being their normal. So we have got to go in here and we've got to start to reestablishing what the normal actually is. And it's getting back to these kind of tactics, getting back to these kind of methods and regulations. If this was good enough for God under the Old Testament system, it's good enough for God today. And that if you're just going to be a people that are just completely riotous and unruly, then, hey, you sow to the wind, you reap the whirlwind. Sow to the flesh, you reap corruption. But if we can, we are going to do our very best to have people be spared from that. You can repent of these things, recognize the sinfulness that you're in, and make the changes. You can stop. And throughout Israel's history, that was what was granted to them before they went into captivity. If you will just submit, if you will just repent and return, then you'll be spared. Israel wouldn't do it, so they had to be punished. And I fear that's going to be the fate for our country as well. That we're going so headlong into sin and wickedness that, man, it's just we're overdue for a spanking. But it's just like with any little child, daddy don't. If we can find a way out of it, we'll try to take it. Well, you should have thought about that before the time finally came for the spanking to step in. I can't think of anything else to say on it. You got anything else? I know we need to go to our chat, but I'll let you say something else if you're thinking about it.
Just to re-go over what the verse called it that you went to in Deuteronomy, you need to call it sin. And you need to call it evil, actually. So, yeah, that next one, right? Put away the evil, but then go to the next slide. And then it says, thou shalt put away the evil from among you. And we need to think about it that way. Because even us, coming from before you got here, you know, we knew things, but until you got here and taught us even deeper thoughts, deeper of how God hates sin and the way he looks at this, we need to think about these things in that same way, that sin is evil. The wages of sin is death. If you're going to go down this, whatever you reap, you are going to sow. You're going to reap flesh, going to sow corruption. Did I get those backwards?
Reverse it.
You're going to sow flesh, you're going to reap corruption. You're going to sow spirit, you're going to get eternal life. We need to think about these things this way. And then going back to what you're saying is we need to push for marriage. We need to push for sobriety. And everybody needs to be doing this. Starts with the brethren, though, to get our community to see it that way. They might not convert, but they might see, you know what? That Nick Mason story, like, moved me. I don't want that happening to anybody else. And then if you see the poverty around here and the drugs around here, that'll make you think, man, I don't want anybody doing drugs. I don't want anybody doing alcohol. And that'll push you. Maybe you won't convert, which I want you to, but that might make you a more moral person to start fighting. And we need to start flipping over the T things. But the other thing that we haven't touched on that we all need to be pushing for is the modesty.
Yeah.
So you're talking about pedophiles. I was driving home last time we were talking here, and just down the road, there's kids, some neighbor kids that I know. But there was a little girl that was, I don't know, 6, 7. She's in a bathing suit, and it's riding up in the back. And I'm just thinking, man alive, where's the mother of this girl to where I'm able to see this exposure? And who else? Where's the mother? Mm-hmm. She could get taken at any moment because, I see, I want. And so that's, little kids. But then there's the teenagers and the adults. It's summertime. Hey, I need to get cooled off or whatever. This is what we call looking good. And we need to be pushing for that as well. As brethren, we need to be pushing for the modesty thing. And it will not make you famous. Or it will make you famous, but not for a good, no one's going to like you for it.
Yep.
But it starts there because lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, the pride of life, it starts with the eyes. We need to stop this. So we need to be pushing for marriage. We need to be pushing for sobriety. And we need to be pushing for modesty so that people aren't ruining their marriages. They're not ruining their lives. And then on that, I wanted to point out again, which I believe we all talked about during the porn people. I remembered this as you were saying this, but they pulled out because there's restrictions. You need to show that you are an adult at a certain age, so they pulled out because
I'm pretty sure it was an ID. Like, you've actually got to show your ID.
So why? Because they are targeting your little kids.
Yep.
They are targeting this. Your young people. So we, older people, need to be shutting this down. So I'm not trying to get off on porn. I'm trying to bring it all together as we're trying to do. We need to be fighting for all of it. And it takes all of us. Not these two. Not Reese, which I wish was here.
We can CGI him.
Yeah, we can CGI him in wherever you are. And we need to be killing people with our sword. We need to be in our Bibles, and we need to be going out there and taking their lives and putting their lives for Christ. And so that's what we need to be doing. And it really needs to hit home. As true as it was for Nick Mason to bring up that story, and I'm glad he did. It's not a story, it's a fact. It needs to be as true for us that sin affects people. Bad theology hurts people. Bad morals hurt people, and it hurts us. Even though we live good lives, it still ends up hurting us in our lives. So back to you, Micah.
All right. Well, let's go to the chat real quick and see if there's anything over there worth notifying us about. Right off the bat, Reese, we'll skip that one. So Reese says, what Democrats doing things illegally would never have guessed. Talking about the gathering of signatures. JC, missionary, our friend over there, says, I've been listening on my phone, but now I'm home. This is horrific. The deception of people who feel this urge to make the destruction of their own and others' offspring. And is that the next one? it's broken up into two. I'm not sure why YouTube does that.
I don't know why that does that.
So we didn't get all of that. Oh, go away. There. He also says, if you cannot legislate morality, then how can you take a stand against murder? Because that's a crime based on thou shalt not kill. That's a good one. Which even nowadays, it's you could be protecting your own home and you end up being the murderer.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it's just all ridiculous.
Shoot, shovel, shut up.
Right. Our brother Joseph Geis says, watching. Thank you, brother Geis, for watching this evening. Friend JC, that you, quote, you cannot legislate morality is nothing but a wimpy, spineless cop-out. I can get behind that.
Or Ed Meese.
Yeah, for sure, is all they're trying to do. It's just, well, I don't want to get in it, so I'm going to use this sorry line. JC also says, yeah, shut down the bars. Absolutely. Morality was legislated by God a long time ago. Absolutely. That's what this book is for. JC also says, exactly. Thank you, Mr. Mason, for your testimony about the wreckage that failing to legislate morality produces. And so even, man, when we're thinking about this concept, it's not, again, this is not it's not the fault of the legislature. They really are not in a position where they should be making laws like this. This should just be a common sense understanding that doesn't, well, it's not on the book, so therefore we can't do anything about it. Absolutely we can. This is such a shut and close case that to even think that, well, okay, we got to make a law so that it can be prosecuted, blah, blah, blah. No, that's ridiculous. This is all recognized as an evil. So everybody just needs to be on board with it. So I don't know, just felt like that needed to be said. Our brother Rob Trevino says, definition of that word that I'm not supposed to use. Yeah. Having or showing a great lack of intelligence or common sense. Now, is that a modern definition, or are you pulling from an older dictionary?
Oh, man.
Rob Trevino says, not a bad word. JC then says, and you know what is also a subtle introduction to immorality, drugs, pornography, and fornication is sitcoms. Man, where you actually show little kids doing these things accompanied, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be by their adults or by parents or friends or whatever. Yes, television is a huge culprit in welcoming these things in to where they just are.
By a laugh track.
Oh, okay, accompanied by a laugh track. And they're just, this is normal. This is, what we're used to seeing. JC also says, thank you again for this, Micah Jordan. This is such an incredibly relevant and timely broadcast, especially considering this is coming up on our ballot. Yeah. You have no idea.
Yeah, and you'll hear about this in another 4 years.
Right, yeah. Well, actually, we'll be bringing it up as we get closer to November again. So
I was just kidding, though.
Yeah, we're going to be, yes, it makes it rounds every 2 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're going to be out in local community trying to do what we can with it. JC again says, exactly, parents, and so many of these churches have abdicated their responsibility to be parents. That's right. They turn it over to the school, the Bible class teacher, whatever, and they're not even doing it. Rob Trevino says, wow, not sure what in context that was. Maybe he can tell us here in a little bit. JC says, I would pull the lever myself in the case of a pedophile. Yeah, man. I mean, that's one of those situations. You're not getting any sympathy there. Reese Albert, Solomon became Oprah. You get 50 shekels. You get 50 shekels. You get 50 shekels. I'm not sure I understand that.
I don't get the 50 shekels. Was it in Ecclesiastes?
I don't know. It might have been.
Okay.
I'm missing it. Sorry,
Okay.
Reese. JC then
Take
says,
your medicine and go to bed.
Yeah, are you?
Give your wife a kiss and go to bed.
Yeah, are you drugged up right now? JC says the reason that kids are all out in the streets is because they simply don't have real homes. That's, again, no real structure. The father's usually missing. And man, so that fits into that reel that you sent me.
Yeah.
Where it's all these homosexuals and transgenders and about, I can't remember how it goes.
You have to be a homosexual or transgender if you have these 5 things, and then the first one is
good at math.
And
then
a good
and they're like, yeah, I've got that. And then the second one is a good relationship with your father.
Then
and they're all turning the video off. And thus, that's what we have happening. Breakdown of the home. Parents are not around. So who's watching the kids? Well, the kids will learn everything from television, YouTube, the internet, this, that, and the other.
Yep.
And we've just got a mess on our hands. JC, again, how can they protect us from evil when they no longer have a ruler by which they can judge what evil even is? That is a very good point and a scary point. That we have these legislators in positions of power, and they're not even they're not even playing by the same rules that everybody else is. Yeah, that is frightening for sure. What really perplexes me, Mike, is that the very same people who will march and protest for the right to terminate the lives of the unborn babies will be the very same people
to be out there with candles and crocodile tears around prisons where notorious murderers are scheduled to be executed in.
Yep. Crazy. Again, God bless you both for standing so firmly and vocally for what is right. And he says it will be so much worse than a spanking. Yeah, I'm hoping for the leniency, though. Yeah, I'm very fearful that JC's definitely right on that. And JC says, yes, sir, Jordan, the almost total lack of modesty is vile. Wow, your example is so true and frightening at the very same time. And that, we got little kids running around in what, quote unquote, adults are running around in so as to be attractive to the male gaze. And then they want to get offended because you're looking. It's like, I don't know what you want from me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, why are you looking at my tattoos? It's like, why did you get them?
Right. Well, you got blue hair and all kinds of metal coming out of your nose, and then you want
all kinds of skin,
and then you want to get mad that I'm even giving you attention. I thought you did this for attention.
Yes.
All right.
Don't give me attention.
So, some very good comments there. Appreciate everybody for being involved in the chat. I've got nothing else. Jordan, you have anything else?
Nope.
All right, then let's go to our outro. This has been another live episode of the Back to the Bible broadcast, Sunday night, 7:30 p.m. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, X for now. Re-airs Saturday nights, 9:30 p.m. If you're in the local area, come out and visit us at the Ronan VFW Hall Sundays at 10 a.m. for our Bible class. We're studying the book of John. John 9, still in John 9. Moving through that. And our worship assembly follows after that Bible class. If you're not in the local area, but you want to stay up to date for what we're studying and what our sermons are, we do live stream our sermons on our Facebook page, Church of Christ in Lake County. Give that a like and follow. And we're also cross-sharing other good sound information from brethren throughout the country. We have a YouTube channel for the Church of Christ of Lake County. Subscribe to that, turn on notifications, and that's where we upload our classes. Matthew, John, 1 Corinthians, Carrying to Discipline, Ways of the Wanderers, some Proverbs information. And as we continue to go through our studies, what's going on over there?
Reese explained his joke. He says when you have to pay the dad 50 shekels for the daughter.
Oh,
so that's
right.
Because he had so many wives.
Okay. All right, man. All right, that's a good one.
You
50 shekels, you get 50 shekels. Nice.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry that we had to make you explain it. That was a good one. YouTube, Church of Christ Lake County. Subscribe, notification bell, and stay up to date for our Bible classes that go on there. We are still involved in our debates with David Lopez. The Church of Christ is a denomination. I have my third negative response tomorrow night at 8, and I'll put up the event notification right after we get done with this broadcast. So be on the lookout for that tomorrow night at 8 for my third response, and I think we're supposed to have some question and answer after that. Not sure how that's going to go, if it's going to be live or pre-recorded. I'll have to check with David about it. But we do have an Instagram page, but all we're doing is just advertising for the broadcast. Contact information. So as I mentioned, that book at the very beginning, if you're wanting more study material over water baptism and the importance it holds in one, receiving the forgiveness of their sins, you can email us at cofcoflakecounty@gmail.com for that book. Or if you have any questions, comments, or there's a topic you would like for us to look into, you can send that to us through this email address. That's how we got on the topic of the church and the ecclesia with that church in Tennessee. Brother sent us a link in, he actually reached out to me on Facebook. The musical instrument question, that came through our email from Maurice Brown. So we're not just talking about it. If you will send us stuff, we will actually talk about it. If you want to call, you can call me at 434-429-5221.
406-499-1745.
And Reese's number is 406-241-4667. You can call us, email us. You can comment on the YouTube channels.
Smoke signal.
Yeah, smoke signals, pigeons, yeah, whatever. Morse code. Well, I don't know Morse code.
Yeah, neither do I.
You can try it. I don't think it'll come through, though. Any way that you feel comfortable in reaching out to us, we have those open and available to you because we want to have this dialogue. We want to have this communication. We want to try to help as many people learn the truth as we possibly can so that we can all have our sins forgiven. We can know what the right paths and right way of God is, and that we can all go through this life together waiting for that eternal home when the final day arrives. So, Jordan, thank you for being on here with us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you for everybody else that was watching and all those involved in the chat, giving us your thoughts and your comments. It really does help to make this a well-rounded Bible discussion and bringing different aspects, viewpoints. Nick Mason, man, brother, shouldn't have brought it up. Thank you for the call. That's not the first time I've heard that.
Yeah.
He told it to me way back when we first got on this casino stuff, and it wrecked me then just as much as it wrecks me now. Thank you for taking the time and just talking about it. You're reliving it. Be willing to go through that pain with us and to let us share in that with you as well. Means a lot. And just being able to use that hurt and unfortunate, terrible event that happened to you and hopefully be able to help someone else. So definitely want to give a big thank you to Nick Mason for calling in and sharing with us on that. So with all of that, again, thank you everybody for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your night, great week, and we look forward to seeing you here next time on another live episode of the Back to the Bible broadcast.